Tracey is currently straddling two roles at Auckland Council. She is the Senior Conservation Advisor for Central West and is actually a key person for us at Pest Free Waitākere Ranges Alliance. We deal with Tracey regularly. But Tracey has actually, I'd like to congratulate Tracey because she has a new role as the team manager for mainland delivery, Central and West Environmental Services. For some of you who don't know that long title, you might remember the previous person in that role. She is the new Michael Ngātai. Congratulations, Tracey, and I'll pass it over to you. We can't hear you.
I was trying to be tricky and use my phone because I'm a bit concerned about my internet, so I'm holding out. So hopefully you can hear me now. Yep. Okay. And actually, I've got you muted on there. Sorry, trying to outwit the technology. I'll just share my screen. And put that on there. Has that gone to the presentation mode? Yep, okay, great. So kia ora koutou, and as Pam said, yep, I'm now the team manager for the Central West team. And I just wanted to put in a little a plug to say that I'm presenting quite a bit that's outside of the work that my team does. So hopefully there won't be too many tricky questions. Maybe we won't have enough time anyway. But so the role of our team is to be that local point of contact for community groups for help or any information on any biodiversity or biosecurity matters, and help deliver local programs. So we focus largely on private land, but of course work across the landscape and link in any of our colleagues and other teams when needed. So we also work really closely with the local boards and help deliver a lot of their environmental programs of work.
Excuse me, Tracey.
Is that gone to the next slide?
Could you please expand your screen?
Has it gone to the next one?
No. Could you put it into slideshow mode so we have expand the main presentation?
You just give me a thumbs up. Is it? Yeah, hang on, maybe. Oh no.
Oh dear.
How's that? Better?
No.
So just as a quick overview about what I'm going to talk about, just a bit about what Pest Free Auckland is and the work we're doing and how that all fits in with Predator Free 2050. I'll talk a bit about the natural environment targeted rate and what it's funding in the Waitākere Ranges, a bit about biodiversity focus areas, what they are and why they matter, and a bit more detail about the animal and pest control programs that are happening in the Waitākere Ranges, as well as the community funded work and local board programs. So, and then a little bit about what's happening out there right now with some predator trapping and baiting, and a couple of thoughts of what we can do next. So, what is Pest Free Auckland? Well, it's an initiative born out of the Regional Pest Management Plan and our biodiversity strategy, the documents that set out what we're trying to do by removing the pests and protecting our native biodiversity in Auckland. It's a collaborative, place-based way of working with communities to engage and enable those communities to restore biodiversity. It's largely funded by the Natural Environment Targeted Rate, and it does contribute to some of the Predator Free 2050 New Zealand goals, though it is broader than Predator Free because obviously it includes a wider sweep of pest animals as well as plant pests. And while in some areas or for some species we are looking to do eradication, for much of Auckland it is just looking to suppress those pests enough to allow native species and ecosystems to thrive.
Tracey, could you Tracey, could you put it into presenter
You weren't
mode?
sure what I was talking
Yeah,
about this natural environment target rate business. It was introduced back in 2018 to help protect Auckland's biodiversity. So each ratepayer pays a relatively small amount, and that must be used for this purpose of protecting biodiversity. It was due to end in 2028, but luckily that's been extended to 2031 to build on the work we've started. So this just shows a bit of a breakdown as to what how it is spent. So you can see that 36% of the investment is in Cody dieback, which includes all those track upgrades, advocacy and research. Then we've got 46% on protecting green spaces and 10% for community groups, and then 8% for marine and islands. So I'm just going to focus on the protecting green spaces and the community group work, because that's where our team mainly works. And of course, there are all sorts of other departments that contribute to this work. So for example, community facilities who do local parks and roadsides, and then you've got Healthy Waters, whose focus is really around water quality, but and they do have their own targeted rate, but there is some crossover, particularly with things like planting riparian areas and things. So just before I launch into what's happening in the Waitākere Ranges, here's a little bit about biodiversity focus areas, and then looked at how much we need to protect and what we need to do to protect them. That helps us prioritise where to work and what specific pressures might need to be addressed. For example, some ecosystems, or for some species, it might be weeds that are really the problem, and for others it might be specific animal pests that are the real threat. So within the Waitākere Ranges, we have a number of weed control programs that are part of this protecting our green spaces funding from the Natural Environment Targeted Rate. We've got the Regional Pest Management Plan buffers weed control. So this is to prevent the spread of specific pest plants such as wild ginger, climbing asparagus, woolly nightshade, and moth plant into ecologically important parks, which is set out in the Regional Pest Management Plan. And we're working through those priority park areas as time and budget allows. The regional pests weed control, regional parks weed control work is trying to target weeds to protect those high priority areas within the regional park. This is mostly happening around the coastal areas and near settlements, and targeting weeds that can survive in the shade and get into the heavily forested areas. So then we have low incidence plants program, and these are pest plants that they're not very common, but could be highly damaging if they get away. So they're at that graph that Brett showed, you know, they're right at the very beginning of that. So we want to get rid of them because we think we can get rid of them. So we've got a program controlling and monitoring sites where they've been found, and then we've got a biocontrol program where we're able to get organisms, otherwise known as biocontrol agents, that have been approved to control pests, and then we can release them on suitable sites with iwi agreement, and then monitor these sites. And we also contribute to further research on new agents. So for pest animals, we've got possum control, which rotates around 4 areas within the regional park and along the eastern foothills buffering the park, aiming to reduce possums down to a 2 to 5% residual trap catch, which is just a measure for estimating possum density. Then we've got feral pig control, which happens throughout the ranges. We're aiming for 0 density of pigs to protect the environment. And we're also looking at the monitoring data and investigating some other methodologies to see if we can find something that's more effective. We are wanting to prevent the establishment of feral deer in the Waitākere Ranges and protect those biodiversity focus areas. This work's mostly happening in the areas to the north of the park, so sort of Bethel's Muriwai way, aiming to stop deer getting in from the north, and the same with the feral goats. So that work's happening in the north of the Waitākere Ranges. for the same reasons. Then we're also currently doing some work on rats and mustelids. Some of that is by helping fund work in the Auckland Park, which of course is a partnership with Forest and Bird and achieved with the help of many volunteers. Then we have some contractors also doing work to protect a biodiversity focus area, and specifically the Hochstetter frog around the Upper Huia Dam. Also doing rabbit control across a number of areas of the regional park, and some feral cat and mustelid control at Waitākere. So this small mammal control will really be increasing over the next few years with as the net of funding increases each year, and we'll be giving priority to activity in or around those biodiversity focus areas or in defendable or strategic geographic locations. So, oops, sorry. To the community space. So this slide is probably a little bit hard to read, but it's a quick summary of some of the work that goes on in that area. So it is more than just funding community groups, although that certainly happens with grants and tools supply. We're also covering everything from working with schools to engaging with the private sector, setting up a coordinators network, festivals, looking at behavioural change and better communication and information sharing. And so just a shout out for the Te Aki Tamaki Makoto website as well, with there's lots of helpful information on there if you haven't already found that. So within the Waitākere Ranges, just to give you an idea, the last year we had some of that community support. We had 5 groups which were supported through the Regional Environment and Natural Heritage Grant with over 100,000 between them, and 3 groups were supported with over 45,000 for the Community Coordination and Facilitation Grant. And some have another year on top of that. We also funded lots of tools and resources this past year, and we still have a little bit of the year left to go. So, and then also a little bit less quantifiable, we've got the other training and support that's been available. So the local board fund a number of projects which contribute to improving the protection of our native biodiversity, including our very own Pest-Free Waitākere Ranges Alliance Coordinator, and another number of programs through Eco Matters, quite a bit of weed control, and some threatened species projects around shorebirds and bats. So this is just a really quick look, and again, I'm sorry, it might be a bit hard to see on the screen there.
Tracey, can you hear me? Tracey.
What's that, Pam?
Could you please put it into presenter view? Could you please put it into presenter view?
Hang on. Sorry, what was that?
Could you please put it into presenter view? So that's the
I thought it was.
Far right icon. Yep.
There we go. Sorry about that. I thought it was already.
It hasn't worked.
No?
No.
Does that work?
No. Never mind.
There we go. Although I don't know what that does to my screen. There we go. Sorry about that. So what's happening on here is I've got as many of the traps and bait lines that I can get my hands on into one map. So the red's the traps and the green is the bait stations. And the bulk of this work is done by volunteers, which is pretty amazing. And I know there's a lot more happening out there that isn't on this map. In particular, I'd note there's not a lot showing out at Piha, but I know there's lots of stuff happening out there. So I would like to put in a little quick plug to add bioinfo to your Trap NZ or Catch IT projects as this. I think this stuff's really valuable when you're looking at that landscape scale and how we can fill any gaps and do targeted effort where it's most needed. So where to next, and what can community groups do? Well, as I mentioned, there will be increased funding throughout the life of the natural environment targeted rate and over the next few years. So we can anticipate generating more predator control and weed control over additional areas with time. And we obviously really want to involve the community as much as possible. And you can see we're really increasing funding in that area to make it easier. We can't do it all by ourselves, and the community are essential in making a difference to the environment. I'd love to do more mapping and really hone in on those gaps that we could fill in the landscape. And other than the physical work that volunteers do, we also need that help in changing people's behaviour and on everything from what to do with their garden waste to responsible pet ownership, and getting as much of your community on board as possible with wanting to go pest-free or predator-free. That's all I've got. So I'm not sure if there's still any time for questions. But